So it's interesting, and I didn't even do research on this. This is just me being on, well, the internet, to be quite honest, and looking up on not even how to do anything, just stuff in my feed. So it's interesting that you can find confirmation or validation on basically anything from the internet. You want to find out that your way is right, look hard enough, or sometimes, in some cases, not hard at all, and you'll find something that validates what you're doing. So as a extremely new small YouTube channel, something that comes up in my feed quite a bit for this specific channel when I go into upload a video, because I've been trying to do it daily, which I've been making pretty much everything other than a Friday, and then I don't do it on the weekends because I'm out doing other stuff. I get a lot of like small content creators, do this to blow up, do this, things that you're doing wrong, all that kind of stuff. Some of it is stuff that I just don't care about. Other stuff, it intrigues me. So sometimes I'll watch it, which obviously then makes more stuff come. But what's interesting is everything out there contradicts another thing. So you'll get some videos that say, hey, do natural things and talk to be like a friend. And the other ones that are like, no, you need to do like hard edits. You need music. You need to, have a hook and do all this. It doesn't matter. But it's interesting that you can get validation or confirmation from any of those, depending on what your position is. And despite what anybody might say, I think we all kind of need a little bit of validation and confirmation in our daily lives. And sometimes it could be about something like this, like what's just something I'm doing now and confirming that I'm doing the right thing. Who knows? What's the measure of it? Is it a ton of views? Is it a ton of likes? Adding a ton of subscribers? I don't know. I'm doing this because I like to do it. And that's pretty much it. There's no other really alternative to it. Certainly isn't to make money off of it. But it's interesting that you can find it in those places. And I think that's why we just always go to our phones, go to our screens and do all that kind of stuff, is to look for that validation or confirmation of like, oh, I'm not the only one going through this. Or, oh, well, at least I don't have it that bad. Things like that. Of course, being a Disney adult, something that I saw was like a meme or something on one of those social platforms that was like, you think you're having a bad day? Well, you're not the person who just booked their flight to Orlando for Disneyland. For those of you who don't know, Orlando is where Disney World is. Disneyland is in California. So you see the problem. So it's just things like that where I think, and again, this goes back to like watching things like those true crimes or, those kind of more depressing things or things that gone wrong, or like me watching some of the like airplane things where they do air crash investigations. I find those extremely interesting, but it's kind of morbid and not so great. But for me, it makes me feel safer about flying because I know that all these things happened and the industry got better as a whole. On a side note, one thing that I found to be very helpful is every once in a while, I'm not any different than anybody else, I need some confirmation, validation, or motivation for that matter. Like sometimes I just need to feel motivated. And yes, sometimes you can just get self-motivated, or sometimes you're like, oh, I need to clean something. Or maybe that's just me. I don't know. But something that, so a while back, quite a while back now, I was in sales. In fact, I was in sales for the better part of 12 years. A better part of 11 years, actually, I think. Yeah, 11 or 12 years. And something that we did was we did a lot of sales training. We met a lot of sales gurus and took training classes and all those kind of things. I've never liked sales. I've been a people person, but I don't really like sales. That's not really my thing. It just happened to be in the automotive industry, which I know it doesn't sound great. And it wasn't generally, but I met some interesting people, got to drive a lot of fun cars, and generally just made enough money to not put myself into crushing debt. So it was overall a win. And I learned a lot of skills from that. And one of them was there were some book clubs that were out there for some of them. And one of them was, leadership ones. But one of them was Grant Cardone, who does a lot of sales stuff. And one of the books that they did was called the 10X Rule. And I actually have this in my Audible. It's in my library, every phone, everything. I always download it and I always keep it on hand. It's a really good read or listen, depending on what you do. And this isn't like sponsored or anything like that. I really find this to be very helpful when I need some motivation or a pick me up or just something to kind of get me back in the right headspace of being productive. And, it's not for everybody. Definitely not. And it reads less like a book and more of just like a speech almost, or a seminar maybe. But I kind of like that style a little bit better anyways. It doesn't sound like somebody's actually reading a book to you. It sounds like somebody's talking to you, which I think is much better than like reading off of a predetermined script or anything like that. Getting some natural things in there, some natural on the fly kind of commentary and things like that. I think just makes it more realistic, more believable. I don't know, relatable. But this book, the 10X Rule, which again is on every single one of my devices, so I can listen to it at any given point. I think I've listened to it like 15 times, maybe 20 times in its entirety. And it's something that I found to give me that pick me up, that motivation. And it's gotten me through some like really unmotivated times. And in a time where I needed to be motivated, sometimes it's really hard to like find the right place. And again, part of doing some of these was to get myself in that right headspace, get me talking because I work from home and I'm not talking to anybody. This gets me kind of like going doing this. That's another way of me doing it too, is listening to this book, this audiobook. And it's the tone, it's how things are being described, the topics. Basically the gist of it is assume everything's going to take 10 times more effort than it actually is going to be. Because if you aim high and you miss, it's still higher. You'll still be higher even if you miss that target than if you aimed low within the realm of possibility. So that's the gist of it. And I do believe that. I think that, shooting high and missing that is better than shooting low and hitting your target, because odds are you're going to put more effort in if you think that it's going to be nearly unobtainable. So I kind of go about that way, about things that way, I should say, to just aim high and, know that failure's okay, that things might not go my way, but I'm always going to be, generally always, going to be in a better spot than I am at this exact moment because of the action that I took. And that's kind of why I like listening to that. And the way I go about things is just, yes, sometimes it's nice to take things easy. I get that. I definitely do that too for certain things. But generally speaking, if it's something that, like cleaning the house, like if the house is just trashed, which it is most of the time because you have two kids running around and they're always making messes and they don't pick up after themselves, then I'm going to aim to clean the entire first floor, all of it, top to bottom. And I don't mean just picking up toys. I mean vacuuming, wiping down stuff, cleaning the windows, everything. There's no way I'm going to get that done before the kids come home and re-trash everything. But I can do, work at that speed, and I will still get more done than if I said, well, I'm just going to pick up the playroom and the family room and, do the dishes. Yes, I'll do that before they get home. But I probably was going to get more of that done if I was planning on doing the entire first floor. So far, it's worked out pretty well. You know, every once in a while you get bit in the butt, but it's one of those things where you set yourself up to either a higher standard and fall short, or, you know, somewhere in that realm than setting expectations for somebody else. Obviously, this is something that you should only do for yourself. I wouldn't set expectations for somebody, aim high and then, come up under expectations. That's not the takeaway from that. But being able to get into that mindset or get in the right headspace is, and finding a way to do that, I think, what your motivator is, what's the thing that you can go back to each time and say, okay, I know if I do this, this is going to put me in the right headspace. Like me talking to a camera right now, that puts me in the right headspace to do it again, or, go in and this is my warm up for, having to do a speech or something the next day. Not that really ever happens, but my point is there's always going to be something that can get you into that right headspace and give you that confirmation, that validation that you might need to boost yourself up. And I think it's important to find that kind of trigger, that validation point, and then be able to repeat it when you need it. And sometimes it might not always be the same thing, but maybe there's 5 different things, depending on what they are, you're trying to get motivated for, and each one of those is a different thing that you do. If you're about to do something physical, maybe you're doing a run or something. If you're about to do a speech or talk to people, maybe, just getting everything off your chest and talking for a little bit might kind of clear your head of all the other stuff. I don't know. But yeah, confirmation and validation, I think, are really some key points to know how to start them. Initiate. That's the word I'm looking for, on how to initiate them.